This is a very fun riff to do. It's called Starving by Hailee Steinfeld. Now, it's in the key of E and it's built around the idea of tenths or moving intervals of tenths. So I'll explain to you how that works and then we'll have a look at how to play it. So it's in the key of E. So E major will start on an E. Now, if you remember from your theory, it always goes tone, tone, semitone, tone, 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 semitone. So that would go E, tone to F sharp, tone to G sharp, then the semitone between the third and fourth one is to A, tone to B, tone to C sharp, tone to D sharp, and then a semitone brings us back to the octave of E. So there's your E major scale. Now tenths are always where you start on a note and you go up to the 10th note from that note. Now you might be going, hang on, the major scale's only got 8 notes in it of the octave, but you've got to remember this just keeps repeating this cycle. Once you get to E, it just starts again, goes back to F sharp, and then G sharp, etc., all the way across. So the 10th of E, if I said what's the 10th of that, it's going to be this G sharp here. Now a 10th is really an interval of a third plus an octave. So you can see from that G sharp to that G sharp is an octave. So a third plus the 8th is the 10th. And I know that mathematically doesn't add up, but that's because you're counting the same note twice in there. So when I'm on E, the 10th will be G sharp. If I was on F sharp, the 10th after that will be back here, which is going to be the A. So you could really just think of it as the third with the extra octave in it. Now the whole song is really built around this idea of just starting on the 1, which is the E, then going to the 2 interval, then it goes to the 6. Now the 6th of E is the G sharp, and then it goes back to the B, which is the 5. So you're going to play E and G sharp, and that's going to move to the F sharp and the A, which is the 2. Then the 6 will be the C sharp and the E, then move back to the 5, which is the B and the D sharp. Now, it pretty all stays with that except for one little thing at the end of the second time of the riff, where the interval is actually a 12th and not a 10th. So when it goes to the B, the 12th will be the F sharp, which is really a 5th plus the octave in there. Now, timing-wise, this is how we play this. It's all built around quavers. So if you imagine you've got your bar of 4/4 and your quaver rhythm, so 2 per beat. So that's your bar. So for that, you normally count that 1, and that's an and, put a plus for and, then 2 and 3 and 4 and. The way it works is you're going to play 1 and on this 2, you're going to do a percussive note. So it's like a string slap, or whatever you want to call it. So you're going to go 1 and slap, and then you're going to play on this and you won't play again until this 4th one. So a way to represent that is, instead of putting quavers here, I could just go and say, well, I'm going to tie that as if it's a crotchet. So if I rub that out, and then we're going to play that, and that one's just going to be a crotchet as well, but that's the string slap at the end. So that goes 1 and, that's the 2, and then the and. You don't play the 3 because of the tie, and then that would be the 4th beat there. So rhythmically, it's going to sound like you're going 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Okay? So let's have a look at how to play that on the guitar. Now in the key of E, this note E is your tonic or your 1 of your scale. So you could count your scale up and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 octave. Now those notes are available everywhere on the guitar, as you have probably learnt from the cage system. But the 10th interval above that E is this G sharp here. So that's on the on the 3rd string, 1st fret. So we're going to go from that open E to this G sharp here, and that's the beginning. So that's actually the first 2 quavers there, where you go 1 and. Now on the 2, we want to slap the strings. So you can see I'm keeping my fingers tucked under, and I'm just going to tap the strings to get that ch sound. So it sounds like. So that's the first bit, 1 and 2. Now on the and here, which was this one, I'm going to play the 2nd of the key, which, as we said, here is the F sharp, so it'll be F sharp and A. Now the F sharp is the 2nd fret on the 6th string, and the A is located here. It's on the 3rd string, 2nd fret. So I want to play those 2 together. So I'm going to go from, and then I'll do that slap, and then I'll play these 2. Now on the 4th beat of the bar, there's another string slap, so I'm going to hit that again. So it'll sound like this. So that's the rhythm for the first bit. Now the second bar, same timing, different notes. We're going to come to the C sharp here. Now C sharp is the 6th of the scale. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now off that one we want the E. So C sharp, 5th string, 4th fret. The E is down here, it's on the 2nd string 5th fret. So I'm going to play them now. Again, I do the first note, then the second, do the slap, and then I move down a tone from the 6th of the scale to the 5, and there is the B, and I'm going to play down here. Now that's the D sharp, B and D sharp, major 10th. By the way, there's only 2 types of 10ths in the major key, and that's major and minor. That shape there is a major, this one's a minor. Now major, like a little bit of theory there, if you're on the 1, the 4 or the 5 of the key, it's a major 10th, everything else is minor. Need to get to know that, very important, but yeah, just to help you to know some of the concepts for this riff. So that second bar was on the C sharp, and you go, the slap move down to the B, play that on the and of the 2, then the slap on the 4. So this would be the whole riff really slow. And then repeat. Now the second time, it's a different note here. Instead of doing that major 10th, it's actually a major 12th. So the note I want is this F sharp down here on the 1st string. Now I prefer to play that slightly different. I go to this. It's the same notes as doing it here, but I find that fingering actually works, and I prefer the tone of that over that one. Yeah, slightly different. So I'll play the whole riff for you very slow. And here's that 12th. Then repeat. Now the riff is about 100 beats a minute, so I'll play it at the end a little bit quicker, but just one thing before I do, fingering is really important with these intervals. When you're doing that first one, you can see I'm using my first finger, but when I go to this, I'm using my 2nd and my 3rd there. So it's actually a very easy change to get there. So as we do these different intervals, so I would practice that if I was you, with your 2nd and 3rd finger. When I go down here to this minor 10th, I'm using my 1st and 3rd. When I'm on the 5th and 2nd string, I usually do 1st and 3rd for a minor 10th, or 1st and 4th for a major 10th. But that's the minor, and then you can see the 1st and 4th there. When I do the second time, I've got that shape before where I did the 2nd and 3rd. I'd encourage you, give that fingering a go. Remember, fingering's always optional. You can do whatever you like, but it's good to follow conventions that make it easy to remember. So here's the whole riff at 100 beats a minute. Etc. Fun little riff to have a go at. So just remember to recap, the key of E, built around 10ths except that one interval of a 12th. Quaver rhythms, got a cool little technique there with a string slap in it to get that really cool kind of percussive sound. It's almost like you're emulating a drummer. You know, normally with drums you do the kick on the 1 and the 3 and the snare on the 2 and the 4, so it's kind of got that boom, ch, boom, ch sort of sound to it. So very cool riff, have a lot of fun with that, and I'll see you in the next video.